Hi, everybody. Welcome to Northpointe Plus. This is my intro. Jake, your intro. Ready? Go.
What was my intro?
I'm not saying
yeah,
it.
because I walked into the office with you and Sue and said, "What's up, my fellow sinners?" Right
Which,
there. How we doing today?
Which, you're not wrong, but, I just don't think I can open the podcast saying that.
Biblically, it is true. For all of sin and come short of the glory of God. But it still feels offensive, right?
Not there's a time and a place. Some people, I don't know.
Time and a place.
I don't know.
Just the office with you and Sue, but not to start a podcast.
Yeah, but now
okay.
we've done it.
Now we've done it. Yeah.
If you guys you get a little glimpse of what the conversations are like.
The good news is every
Office.
podcast intro from now on will only be better than that one. It can only go up from that one, right?
What if that was our church's thing? Hey, sinners, welcome to Northpointe Plus. Oh, my gosh.
On Sunday mornings. We're so glad you sinners are here today to worship with us.
It's a joke.
Oh.
People are like, who?
What in the
heck?
world? Yeah,
No.
absolutely.
We'll be for real. Dude, the egg your neighbor thing is so funny to me every time we talk about it, because whoever's announcing it always kind of smiles or laughs when they say it.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, oh, you can egg your neighbor.
Yeah.
It's good.
Rick asked the question when he was talking about it. He says, anybody here egged your neighbor? And I was in the back with my hand up, and I was like, oh, there's not enough hands for me to keep mine that high. So I did a little hand after that one.
And very confident, too.
Yeah.
I've egged my neighbor.
Whoa.
Oh, wait. No, not the Easter egg.
Yeah, my bad.
Forget about that.
Sorry, Mrs. Johnson.
But yeah, so Easter's coming up. 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks now?
Yeah.
Ready.
Yeah, Easter and Good Friday service. I love Good Friday service. It's one of my all-time favorite services that we do.
On Sunday?
I think so.
Okay, I must have not been paying attention or something.
I'm so excited to do this podcast with you, Sue. Or Sue. I called you Sue. I was looking at Sue over in the corner nodding her head. Yeah.
No, for the announcements. But I'm like, did I miss that? Did they say Good Friday?
Yeah.
I don't think that. Is it on the sign outside too?
No, I don't think it's on our banner.
Okay.
I don't think it's on our banner. It should be on the website under the events and the app and all that, but I don't think we put it on the banner this year.
Okay, gotcha. Are you guys doing the walk too or no?
Yeah, so if you come on Good Friday is when we'll put it up, and we'll put it right out in front of the building like we did last year. We've had these for a few years, trying to find the right place for it just because it's kind of a weird thing to have on property, just the way our property is laid out. But Janet had the great idea of just putting it right there as the entranceway into the B entrance and putting it on there. And so we'll do that again right before Good Friday service, and then it'll be there Saturday and then on Sunday as well.
Yeah.
So those are really cool things. Those are fun to read.
Yeah. And so this is the second message, right, of this series.
Yep.
7 last words. So why don't you go ahead and give just a quick recap of it?
Yeah, so we are jumping into Luke 23, starting in verse 39 here, where Jesus is on the cross, and he's got the two criminals next to him on either side. And one criminal is insulting him, and the other criminal is coming to him with a much more repentant heart and makes a request of Jesus. And Jesus ultimately responds to the one who makes the request. He doesn't even say anything to the other criminal who's insulting him. He just responds to the one who's making the request and says, hey, today you will be with me in paradise. And that's kind of our main phrase, is that idea of today you will be with me in paradise. And so we kind of looked at the dichotomy of these two criminals and their way that they approached Jesus between them, which is really just this incredibly beautiful picture, if you stop and look at it, of all of humanity before Jesus. When you see the cross, you see how all of humanity reacts to Jesus. It's either this insulting arrogance mentality of, I don't really need you, I've got my way, or this recognition that before Jesus, I recognize I am not good enough and I surrender and need to you kind of moment. And then just also the beautifulness of the criminal who did surrender to Jesus at his very last moment and what that means for us, because I think there's some really cool application there. So
I think it's funny because it's always been and you kind of said too, when you see the picture, usually there, or Easter time, there's one cross in the middle and then two sides.
Yeah, I wanted to say it, but then in our facility, there's just one cross up there, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna call that out.
Yeah, but it's funny because that is a popular image, and so Rick has talked about it before. The cross was a Roman torture device.
Yeah.
So how crazy,
Yeah.
That is what our
Could you imagine if a new religion popped on the scene and they were like, hey, if you follow us, you are going to follow after the symbol of the electric chair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, no, that's really bad PR.
Yeah,
You
right?
wouldn't
Doesn't
do
look
that.
good.
Yeah.
Well, and like, so you forget though that the people, like the other two, criminals on the cross, like, like that's, you mentioned it too. Like that was their like destiny. Like that's where they were supposed to be because they were actually guilty.
Yes.
And yeah, like,
And whatever they did was bad enough for them to get the death penalty.
Oh, I was gonna actually ask something about that because like, you know, we always. I guess maybe it's like a little kid thing. When kids are in church, they're called thieves or something, right? You mentioned that?
Yes, so some versions of the Bible, they talk about being a thief in there. And so my guess is that's probably a piece of the pie for them.
Okay, yeah.
But whatever it is, part of it is there's probably some citizenship stuff that's in there because like a Roman citizen couldn't be crucified. Okay. Like all of these different things that come into play.
Yeah.
But there's also plenty of times that like they wouldn't just crucify anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking.
There was enough in their life, whether it's repeat offender stuff, whether it's whatever it is, and we don't know. We don't even have their names. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's enough of a situation to show what they did was evil.
Yeah.
These are wrongdoers, which is what Luke is getting at with the word there when he says malefactor or wrongdoer, the word criminal. He uses criminal, in other words, to show like, no, they are actually guilty. And then the one criminal says to himself, something like, we're here because of our deeds, like owns up to this. And it's very easy to overlook because in our mentality, we just continually see sinless Jesus, but he's flanked by guilt.
Yeah.
He's innocent in the middle, but he is absolutely flanked by guilt, which is just that representation of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think something you said that I really liked too was proximity to Jesus doesn't equal humility. And it just made me think of how we are today, where sometimes people feel like, you know, like, I just feel so far away from God. It's like, he's always there.
Yeah.
Like he's always there. And
well, turn around. What are you doing?
Yeah, right. Like, did you even look over there? No. But I liked that because it made me think of how just people are today. And then also the map that you put up. Will you describe that again?
Yeah. So, we recently went to the church conference, Exponential, and Ed Stetzer. Ed's like dean of the Talbot School of Theology. He's really big into research, does incredible stuff. He gave this huge presentation, went through probably 30 slides, like 30 seconds each, and went through that. And his whole thing that he has been doing with his research project with Barna Group and Glue and all these others is just to see where does the world view Christianity, where's the West view Christianity. All across the world, to be honest, America is actually behind where Europe is. So what we're experiencing, Europe experienced 10, 20 years ago, and that is post-Christianity. Like post-Christianity. We are not a Christian culture. It's not on the radar, all those things. And that shows you statistically from 2008 to 2022, those that checked the none box. So when they did the survey, they said, hey, here's a bunch of different religions. What do you most affiliate with? And then they had one more that just said none. I don't affiliate with any religion kind of thing. And we saw this dramatic increase. I think I don't have the picture up here, but I think it showed 35% or more in the red area that would have checked none in percentages. And to go from that in 2008 to 2022, where it was basically like, oh, you see some spots, but it's kind of regionalized, to basically going, oh, hey, look, that's our whole country is now red. You know, even Bible Belt areas, right? Like all of that in there where people have just said, I don't have any purpose for God in my life. Like I have no religion. I don't have anything to do with that. It's about me kind of mentality. And so there's a piece of that that's incredibly heartbreaking. But if we look over towards across the Atlantic and see kind of what's happening over there and what that holds for us, as well as statistics with Gen Z, what we actually see is what the Bible has clearly stated several times. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Like there are so many, especially among younger generations, that are hungry for the gospel. Bible sales are up with Gen Z. The ability for both young men and young women to be intrigued by the gospel, and the way that they look at that is actually through older generations. Like they're looking. So I'll put it this way: if you are a grandparent, you have an incredible opportunity to be an influence for the gospel in your grandkids' lives. Like statistically, it is there to show they will listen to you and want to hear from you and want to talk to you and are attracted to you. Like you have an incredible voice to speak into your grandkids' lives with Gen Z like none other before. It's amazing to be able to see the statistics. So there's all these things that we're seeing that are there. This is where I think like things like church planning and really investing in that is creating incredible opportunity for the gospel to be able to get there, because there's less preconceived notions about Christianity.
Right.
Like that's out the window. There are no notions about Christianity other than some like negative political ones, if you will. You know, they really politicize it into what they think Christianity is not, or what they've seen on CNN, Fox News, debates, whatever, like somebody who claims that, but isn't really rooted in the Bible. It's rooted in politics. So you have that notion, but there's not like weird, bad theological stuff. It's just like politics or those kinds of things, which when you present the truth of the gospel, like just throws that right out the window right away. Like people are so amazed when you show the truth of the gospel, and they're like, man, I just thought that was Christianity was this A, B, C, or D political agenda. And you're like, no, this is the gospel. This is who Jesus is. And when you show a genuine Jesus, then people are like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, so like it's ripe for the picking, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's just very different. And so it can be intimidating to feel like, oh man, people don't have anything to do with Jesus. This is gloom and doom. And there's pieces of that are heavy, but man, it's right there, like for revival, for things to take off. And we saw this happen in the early church. If you read the book of Acts, very similar stuff too. But man, there's pieces in there, early church history with Constantine and going to post-Christian and some of the different persecution that happened beforehand. But all that to say, like the piece of the nuns is jarring, but it's not, I wouldn't be discouraged by it. And to me, it's much more the idea of just being able to say, no, let's just be intentional. How do we think of it as a more missional mindset? We're taking the gospel to people who feel like they have no reason to believe in God. Well, we know the reason. It's almost like you're just going to an unchurched nation, and that's kind of what we're becoming, an unchurched nation. So we get to take the gospel, and as we look at America as a mission field, man, we can make a really big impact for the gospel.
Well, and like something you said too, it was kind of like the consumer spirituality.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I liked that because I think that, and it kind of goes in the line with the other thing that you said about like, you know, as soon as something goes wrong, then everybody's like, like then they start praying and whatever, or, you know, like start looking for something. And I think a lot of people's big like argument is sometimes, well, like, you know, I pray, I try to read my Bible, and then nothing happens. Like they're waiting for like just good things or something to be dropped in their lap, where it's like, that's not what it's about. And when you put it in terms of like a relationship, like that you just with somebody that you know, it's like that doesn't happen. Like you don't just like
it's an exchange.
I complimented this person and she gave me $100. Like, well, that's not how that works.
Right.
Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, there's so many times consumer spirituality, consumer Christianity wants ATM Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if I check enough boxes, if I do enough, read my Bible, pray every day, and grow kind of thing. Like, and it's this bounded set of like, I'm accomplishing things to earn so I can level up and get the bonuses that come with it. It's like,
and a lot of it, like, that's like, I think for me anyway, I can see that it's an American mindset.
It's so American.
Yeah. Yep. And
and an entitled mindset. Like that's, Jesus didn't say like, hey, follow me and all these blessings. He says, take up your cross and follow me. And he also says, I'll make you fishers of men. So like following me is not about you, it's about me, you know, and that's a very different mindset than we have culturally, where things are all about us. And it's about you as an individual, and following Jesus is not. It's about Jesus, number one, and then it's about the church body of believers beyond that, like that community above
and like
self.
You said about like Gen Z too, like it's like this freshness where it's almost like they're finding it for themselves, where other generations are just like taking it for word from like what other people are saying. Yeah. And it's like, oh, well, like, gosh, that sounds horrible. And it's like, well, they're not really communicating it the best, you know? Like,
well, think about this. For most Gen Zers, their parents went to church and rejected church. All right. So like they're not taking their kids to church. They're not doing any of those kinds of things. So as a Gen Z, you're coming up with a very fresh perspective, because you don't have, I grew up in church, you have nothing. Yeah. So like it's just blank slated kind of thing. And the danger is if we allow culture to speak to these kids of what Christianity is, they will not get the gospel. It is our job as the church to present the gospel to them. You know, it's our job as parents to present the gospel. It's our job in the church to present the gospel, but really just to be very intentional with that. So I would tell anybody, you know, you have a Gen Z kid coming in with their tall socks and Crocs on kind of thing. Don't wag your finger at them of like, oh, they don't get it, this or that. You know, you're right, they don't. Now fantastic is it that you get to give it to them, that you get to spread that kind of stuff to them, and just really take a hold of the idea that, even if something's goofy about a Gen Z because they're young, congratulations, we've all been there.
Right. Yeah.
Something about egging houses or something earlier, right? Like just recognize Jesus does the changing. We just do the gospel stuff that needs to be there, and it's a beautiful, wonderful thing.
And I think that maybe starts with another thing Americans struggle with.
This is a very patriotic podcast today, huh?
Hey,
here's all the things wrong with Americans.
No, just like, I guess speaking from my own experience, I'll say, is like, it's hard to, honestly, I think it's just a human thing. Like, it's just hard to say like, oh, I was wrong. Like, I'm in the wrong, you know? And like, oh, so like, I'm not so great as, thought. Like, I'm a sinner.
Yeah.
Hey, sinners.
Hey, sinners. Welcome to the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I liked when you're talking about the criminal who was like getting it.
Yeah.
And he was like, he wasn't blaming God for his circumstance.
No.
He was like, no, I did it. Like, and that's hard. It's such a hard thing to admit. And then, so you said he had a clear understanding of his brokenness. And like, that is what we are like supposed to be doing, because that's where the healing begins. And like, he was doing it at the end of his life, but it's like, so why are we taking that for granted now?
No doubt. You know, I mean, think about all the way back to some of the addiction stuff. What's the very first step of AA? You know, hey, I'm Jake and I have a problem.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's that very first thing. That's the very first step for repentance, the very first step for healing, the very first step for change is recognizing I am broken and it's my fault.
Yeah.
Like, that's step one. Hey, number one, I'm broken. Number two, it's my fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's so hard. And it's because it takes the ability to set your pride aside. You know, like you got this think about it. You had this other criminal on the cross who comes with arrogance, There's no repentance in there. Hey, if you're the Messiah, this guy you're claiming to be, save yourself, prove it, and us too. Get me down as well. Why?
Yeah.
If he is the Messiah, if he has all this power, what in the world makes him think he should do anything for you? Yeah,
you
now
said,
the
like,
love of Jesus,
ask for performance too.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. Like, number one, you do deserve to be there. He doesn't deserve to be there, and you're saying, hey, if you really don't deserve to be here, get yourself down, and me too. Why would he get you down? Yeah. Like, think about that. Like, why? No, you're a criminal.
Yeah,
you actually do deserve this.
Yep.
He's the one who's innocent. Why would he get you down? On the love of Jesus, he's going to provide more than what you're actually asking for if you would just come to him in the right heart.
Yep.
Like the other guy does. But that's the whole piece of it, is we don't want to be wrong because we like the gospel of me much more, because it makes me seem a whole lot better, and I get to do things the way I want to do it.
Yeah, and it's scary too. Like, people don't want to talk about, you only want to talk about the good things you're doing, not the things you're struggling with.
Hi, Instagram, how are you?
Yeah, right? Like, but that's what we talk about, like why life groups are so important, because you can be honest and open, and they can be helpful with accountability, because I think that the enemy tells you to keep things a secret, but then it festers and gets, you know, like it gets worse, and it's like, no, let it out, because that's, you know, you're admitting it, and that's where the healing begins. Like, and then just to kind of circle back from last week, we're talking about like forgiveness and like, well, how do we forgive ourselves? You know, what does that look like? Some people were asking a question, like practical advice for forgiving yourself. Like, where do I start? Like, what does that look like? And it is like a very personal thing.
It is. Yeah, I wish there was just like the one size fits all approach, or that button you could push. You know, I remember the old Staples commercials. They had the easy button, the red easy button, and like everybody bought them up. I think Staples made more money off that than they did paper at that point in time. But you'd push it and say that was easy, kind of thing. And like, those were so popular because everybody wanted an easy button in their life for something. And forgiving yourself is not easy. You know what I mean? Because shame and guilt are heavy things to bear. You know, we called them a backpack to wear on Sunday. And I think it's a pretty good analogy. Like, you just feel it because you physically do feel that, right?
Yep.
Like, when you feel those things, your body has physical reactions to it. So I wish there was an easy one in every situation, and to say, you know, click your heels 3 times and turn around 4, and, you know, you can feel better about yourself. And it doesn't happen that way, right? And people look for that, and that's where addictions come in so much, whether it's alcohol, whether it's work, whether it's exercise, whether it's TV or food or whatever, to just numb those kinds of things. And that doesn't work either. So how do we get to that point where we actually can move past the shame and the guilt and all of that. And my only thing I can say is that it only comes from Jesus. And it does, because ultimately all of our sin in our life is not, it can be, but is not against our spouse or our kids or our friends or ourself even. It's breaking God's law. We have first and foremost sinned against God. And we see that in repentant prayers, especially when you read the Psalms of David. I think of, I wish I could remember the number right now, but after David and Bathsheba, where he had this whole thing. Oh, Sue's going to tell me real quick. 51, Psalm 51. Thank you so much. I almost said 125, the way the hand gestures come in. But it's this beautiful psalm where he acknowledges in there, my sin is against God, first and foremost, kind of thing. And this is a guy who used his power and influence against a married woman and had her husband killed, and all sorts of stuff that's there, and messed up greatly. And didn't confess it right away. And he was brought before him with a prophet in an analogy and realized, I am a sinner. And he said, first and foremost, I have sinned against God.
Yeah.
And yet, because of Jesus, he says, today you'll be with me in paradise. Like, even though you are broken and it's your fault, you are guilty and deserve this punishment. I offer you forgiveness and new life because I'm taking that upon myself. So the only thing I have is this recognition that the one that I hurt the most, Jesus, God, doesn't hold it against me anymore. Scripture tells as far as the east is from the west. And if he's not keeping tabs, if he's not saying, do this, do that, he didn't tell the guy on the cross to say, all right, we're running out of time here, so give me all the confessions you got.
Right. Yeah.
Right. He didn't say, well, work your way down, repay those debts. Or he didn't even say, if you would apologize to all these good people. He didn't. Because this thief understood what Jesus knew as well. My sin is against God first and foremost. So he said, Jesus, remember me. So there's repentance in that. There's acknowledgement of who Jesus is, Lord. And then there's that repentance piece that says, I recognize my sin. I'm asking you for forgiveness. And Jesus tells him then, truly I tell you, you'll be with me today in paradise. In other words, you're free. I've forgiven you. I don't hold that against you anymore. So when that guy a few hours later dies, he's in paradise. And nobody looked around and said, look at all the things that were done there. No, everybody looked around and said, man, how fantastic is Jesus that you got here?
Oh, yeah.
How fantastic is Jesus that you got here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it can be hard, but that's a lie Satan wants us to hold on to, is this idea that you are the sum of your worst decisions and mistakes and choices.
And then that's it.
And that's where your value lies. No, your value lies in the idea that the God of the universe paid the price for you. It's not in the things that you've done. It's not in any of that. Our value lies, and the worth that we have lies in the price that Jesus paid for us. And Jesus, that's pretty stinking valuable.
Well, and his, I think too, his ways are higher than our ways. And how often do we say, wow, it's crazy that he did it this way? I would not have done that. Well, yeah, because his plan is higher than our, we have no idea what's going on. We can just look at the Bible and be like, wow, this is the character, of God and everything, of how loving he is and just and everything. But yeah, it's so hard to know. We don't know, it's not in our human, our human brains don't work that way. And so it's shocking. We're like, what? That's how it worked? Yeah, because Jesus is cool.
Yeah.
And something else just about that criminal who is end of his life saying defending Jesus, hey, stop, and then talking to him please, remember me when you go. Something I thought was interesting is we're talking about the crowd mentality of these are the same people who were worshiping Jesus when he came in, into the town. Now they're all calling for his death. So crowd mentality is it's a hard thing. Right? Everybody always says peer pressure, whatever.
Yeah.
The guy on the other side of the cross is falling into it too, making fun of him.
Yeah. He's dying too, and he's joining in with the crowd.
He's dying, yes.
The craziest thing in the world.
And then this other guy, I'm like, wow, what? That's just such a strong thing to be going against the grain, even where you are.
Yeah.
I thought that's
really the craziest thing. This guy on the cross, the unrepentant criminal, this isn't the pot calling the kettle black. This is the pig calling the swan ugly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what this is. He's totally off base and doesn't get it at all. And it's the most ridiculous thing. That's a beautiful picture of humanity's reaction to Jesus, though. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever heard the song "Man on the Middle Cross"?
Probably.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Go ahead and sing it for me real quick.
No. But I will say,
I tried.
It's again, it's just that picture of like humanity. Like I've been the one on the right, like looking for
sure,
like a fight and all these things, like angry, and I've also been the one filled with regret.
Yeah.
On the other side, and like just thank God for the man on the middle cross.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, oh gosh, that's so good.
The one thing I will say about the unrepentant criminal, this was a question somebody had asked me, or at least pointed out. They said, when I read that, and they said, "Save yourself and me too," they had always read that from the idea that like this guy is requesting of Jesus.
Oh, like
he is like saying, if you're the Messiah, like bring me down. But we know from the word that Luke used for mocking has its root connotations in the word blasphemy. So what he's doing there is blasphemy. He is being venomous in this moment. He's not. There's no repentance in there. I think that's an important thing.
Yeah.
And that's just it's a language thing.
Yeah.
For
and
us,
it's like how you
it's
read
just
it
important
too.
to know. Yeah. So it's just always something I think is important.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm excited for Easter coming. Good Friday, always good. It's a good time.
Yeah, they're going to be fun. Some creative elements in the services and stuff like that. That should be good.
For Good Friday, we didn't talk about this earlier. Is there child care or no?
Yeah, great question that I probably should know the answer to and don't off the top of my head.
I guess on Sunday we'll say.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll come up. Usually there's been for the littlest ones. I think my guess is like 3 and under is what we usually try to be able to do that for. And then the other kiddos can be in there, and be a part of it. But usually the ones that have the less impulse control as they're toddling around, because you can hold a baby in the service usually, and they're pretty good. And we have other spaces and rooms for that too. But those 2 and 3-year-olds are rambunctious and fun. I had mine with me in second service during the music. They love to come to the music, and I was laughing so hard at little Josie because she's sitting next to me and she's coming in. She hasn't been in service for a while, and they're worshiping and looking, and she's looking around. And she taps me on my arm. I go, "What's up, baby?" She goes, "Are they going to dunk anybody's head in the water today?"
So we've been having lots of baptisms.
Yeah, lots of good baptisms, and I'm dying inside. I'm like, "No, not today, honey." And she's like, "Okay." And it's just funny what they know.
I guess she's watched you baptize people because you really do.
Get him down, man. Yeah. Come on, let's go. It's fun. It's a celebration.
You mentioned it earlier, but just give people like a little recap. You guys said you went to Exponential. So like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So we're blessed because of the church's generosity to be able to go to things like these church conferences and really get poured into. Not only is the worship stuff amazing, the networking piece. I had coffee today with a guy from Lansing who's a church planner whose kids go to school with my kids, but I met him at Exponential.
Oh my God.
I met him in Orlando. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just happened to see like the familiar face, and I was like, "I know you." And he's like, "I don't, stranger danger, right?" And I'm like, No, I'm Jake. And he ran away. No, I'm just kidding. So we had coffee today, super cool stuff, like to make these connections. He's going to do incredible things in East Lansing. I'm excited for them as they're planting a church, all this cool stuff. And all that to say, like, there's really encouraging stuff to be a part of it. But like you do some real nuts and bolts things of figuring out like for me, there was church finance stuff that was incredibly helpful and incredibly enlightening to be able to find new ways to impact our community with our facility and our finances. The world is now a world that lives off of artificial intelligence. What does that mean for the church? And so diving into that was incredibly fun.
Yeah.
Incredibly fun. And to find out real tools that they can say like, hey, here's a way that we can redeem this. The world, there's a lot of people in the world using artificial intelligence for negative purposes. Here's how the church can use it for positive, ethical ways. And you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I want to do that. So like that part was really cool to be a part of. The desire and that reminder. And once again, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And this idea that, at least in my heart, and I truly believe this because I feel like God just pounded me when we were down there to say, some of the things, the assumptions that I was making about when we get to this point, we could like be a part of church planting stuff, and we could send people out, and we could do that. And God does what he lovingly does with me, where he puts his arm around me and goes, you're a big dummy. Let me tell you how this is really going to work. And it was like, no, we can do that now, you know? And so like, man, I just felt this incredible burden down there, and it's been sitting in my heart ever since. And I'm excited to talk about it one day a little bit more, but it's this idea that we have people in our church that are going to be church planters. That are going to be youth pastors and worship pastors, and some people that are going to stay local with parts of that and being a part of church plants, some people that are going to move. I think we have missionaries in our church, and when I say in our church, I mean like right now, and people that are God is going to raise up, and we're going to send out of our church to go harvest God's his crop out there. And I'm super excited about figuring that out and talking with people in our church. And I just think the Holy Spirit's working, and I'm super excited to see how that happens over the next few years.
Yeah, no, I think I like when you guys talk about it, because like everybody has to do like, you know, continuing education in their jobs.
Yeah,
or like everybody has to do that.
Yeah.
So like you guys going down and like going to a conference, like I don't know if everybody feels like that, but like I want to hear what you learned, and like, you know, what the good stuff that you bring back. So thanks for talking about that, and thanks for going over everything for the message on Sunday. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll get to see you on Sunday.
Go egg your neighbor.
Go egg your neighbor.